What's up, YouTube? We got kind of a different type of yo-yo discussion review to do today. This is the Aussie. This is a prototype yo-yo, and it was sent to me for review. It's named after the designer's dog, who's an Australian Shepherd. But the dog's name is Scout, and he couldn't name the yo-yo the Scout because, well, you know, that yo-yo already exists. But let's go ahead and take a look at it. This is kind of a cool idea because this is a prototype. These aren't available to buy, so I'm not going to review it in the sense of like I would do pros and cons or you buy, because it's going to change if it ever comes out to review. But I think it's fun to sort of do prototype, looking at prototypes and just sort of, you know, making suggestions and kind of going to where, you know, to go from, you know, to say, all right, well, here's where we are, where does it want to be? And I'll give my suggestions and we'll kind of go from there. All right, so the Aussie. The diameter of this one is 53 millimeters. It has a 44 millimeter width, and it weighs in around 65 grams. The gap width is 4.5 millimeters, which is pretty standard. 19 millimeter silicone response pads with size C bearing. Estimating price between $60 and $75, depending on how many they get made, if anybody's got any interest in it or what have you. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the shape. I'm not going to throw it too much because it's not, you know. Let's talk about the shape. So it's got kind of this rounded over H shape, which I'm a big fan of. So here it is next to, what is this one? Here it is next to Zach Gormley's original, not original, this is the one after the Arctic Circle. So here's Zach Gormley's yo-yo. So it's kind of a similar sort of rounded over shape to that. It's similar to the Aviator 2 as well. Here it is next to the Too Sick Seraph. So these are obviously much more organic-y. This kind of goes for more of a little, kind of like the Orca, or like the Aviator 2. Kind of gives it that sort of a vibe where it's got these wings here, and it kind of dips in the middle. So here, let's take a look at the cup here. You can see it's a tapped axle with just a big beefy rim here, and it's nice overall. I would say this is a solid start. If your prototype shows up and it's this solid, you just need refinements from here. In my opinion, a couple of refinements that I would look to do is sort of to spice up the cup a little bit, to give it somewhat of a thumb grind lip as opposed to just this the way it is now. It looks good the way it is, but if this cut underneath a little bit, I think it would kind of make the yo-yo feel a little floatier. He said he was kind of going for somewhere between float and power. I don't recommend doing that necessarily because I kind of don't feel like this is floaty or that powerful all at the same time. So it's sort of, you know, neither. It's sort of either or, and that was something that I said to kind of, you know, maybe tweak and change. Additionally, on the inside here, while you do see it does kind of flatten out a little bit, I like when yo-yos sort of do cuts that are more aesthetic rather than play-wise. Just little cuts like that just to sort of break it up, and I feel like it really does a nice job of breaking up things, especially with anodization and things and stuff like that. So cuts, little aesthetic cuts like this, or like on the Zach Gormley yo-yo there, really just, you know, I feel like would kind of make this, you know, sort of a more refined experience, in addition to deciding whether you want it to play floaty or play with a little bit more power, because right now it's just sort of an in-between sort of thing, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just not, you know, you want a yo-yo to have identity, and this maybe isn't quite there, but it's close. It's like, this is like 90% there, and then, just a few little tweaks. This is the type of prototype you want. You want a prototype to show up about 90% there so that you can make decisions to say, oh, I want this to be more this way or more that way, and that way, you know if you've got one that's sort of in the middle, you can sort of pick. So let's go ahead and throw it around a little bit, and we'll discuss what it feels like on the string. All right, so on the string, first thought is that it's fine. It's a little boring, I would say. If anything, it doesn't feel powerful. It's a little bit just in the middle. Not powerful, not floaty, just kind of in the middle. One thing I do really like is just the way this shape feels. I like the sort of organic H shape, like the Aviator or the Orca. I feel like that's a really just good shape for a yo-yo overall. The response is a bit snaggy in this, and we'll take it apart and I'll show you that. That's also something that in a prototype you really want to hone up. So the fact that this is a prototype is totally fine, but the pads stick up just a tiny bit, and that sort of makes the yo-yo a bit more snaggy than maybe it ought to be. Handles some speed, it's got some good stability, but like I said, it doesn't really have power or float, so it's not really a yo-yo that feels like I want to push it and go fast, like it's powerful, and it's not really a yo-yo that I want to play chill with. It's just sort of in between. And to me, that's a little bit boring. But some people might like that. But to me, that's a little bit boring. The grind finish is good. It's very reminiscent of like what a Yo-Yo Factory grind finish would be. It's that level of like, I think I've got some Yo-Yo Factories that kind of feel pretty much just like this. It's not over blasted, not under blasted, just about right. It does have snappy response pads. I do like these silicone pads a lot. But the fact that they don't exactly fit does make it a little snaggier than I would want it to be. Thumb grinds are doable-ish. Nothing to really catch your thumb in there. So I would, just because of how big this lip is, that would be my thought, would be to go ahead and do like a little groove to catch your thumb for like thumb grind tricks and transfers and stuff. Because those are fun, especially if it's not a competition yo-yo. You kind of want to facilitate stuff like that. The grind finish is good. This is going to finger spin pretty well. That you're going to go around that little nipple there in the middle. It really finger spins well. Because a lot of room to catch, a lot of room to get it on your finger, and then it's pretty wide yo-yo, so you can do the whip to get the string in there pretty easily. I wouldn't recommend doing horizontal with it the way this one is now, but you know, once the final version comes out, I'm sure that'll all be ironed out and good. The regens are nice. It's very stable, so I wouldn't really mess too much with the weight distribution. Just kind of pick which way you want to go with it. Yeah, I mean, it's a really, like, if I were to get a prototype of, like, a yo-yo that I was designing, and it was to be this good and need this few changes, I would be pretty excited about it, because I think this is a really good, I think this is, like, 90% awesome. In fact, if a yo-yo came out like this, I would be like, this isn't a bad yo-yo. But, since it's a prototype, and he asked for suggestions, that's what we're doing. Let's go ahead and take it apart. We'll look at it on the inside. We'll make a couple more comments about it, and then I want to read, because I haven't, what his thoughts were, his suggested, his maybe tweaks, and we'll kind of comment on that as well. Let's take her apart. Not gonna. This yo-yo's obviously been played a ton, so I'm not like gonna comment on its smoothness or whatever, because it's just a prototype. It's fine. Played a lot of bad prototypes. This is not a bad prototype at all. This is a very good one. So the first thing I'm going to point out in your prototype is you want to look and make sure, especially if it's an unresponsive yo-yo, and I don't even know if it's going to show up on screen, you want to make sure that the pads fit. These pads stick out just a touch, and these silicone pads are very grippy. So if these silicone pads stick out, like these are gonna snag. And this one's been played down a bit. You can even tell. So these brand new would have stuck out even more. See if this side. Yeah, this side sticks out even just a little bit more. kind of see it there. Center track bearing, good. Always a favorite. I would keep that. So, other things to consider. The gap is always... Minding the gap is always very important, and something that I would tweak down the line for any yo-yo. This could be rounded over a bit more. It's snaggy mostly because of the ping-ping catching off of the response pad. But if this was also a little bit more rounded, that would feel a little bit better coming off of the string as well. And those are tiny little tweaks that you really have to play the prototype before you can decide, yeah, I want to do that more, or I want to change this or something. And that's something that I would consider there. Additionally, like I said, in the cup, I would suggest maybe doing a thumb grind lip, maybe just changing this a bit, maybe just to sort of take a little bit of weight away from what's towards the center, and maybe push it up a little bit towards the rim. I think it would give you a little more power and kind of make the yo-yo itself just feel a little bit more, give it a little more oomph. Because, I mean, let's face it, with H-shaped yo-yos, whether they're organic or not, you kind of want them to have a little bit of oomph. And I just think a little more power in this really would be nice. Or you go all the way the other way and just go floaty. So that's whichever way you want to handle it that way is sort of up to you, but that's sort of either blow my expectations away or like meet my expectations with power. That's kind of where I am on that. It went back together well. It's machined very well. He says it was dead smooth upon show up, but obviously this one's been played. There's a little scratchy there. It's been beat up a bit, and that's what you want to do. You want to get prototypes into everybody's hands so that they can give you suggestions. So let's see potential tweaks and options that have been considered. We've got notes, paper, because he sent me a paper. So the size of the inner catch zone is currently too narrow to comfortably fit a finger during grinds. I agree. I kind of got a chunky finger. It could be better, but it ain't bad. I don't necessarily agree with that. So widening catch zone would increase the overall width, which I'm not sure is ideal. I think it's okay the where it is, honestly. I don't think it's bad. I mean, maybe a few little tweaks, but I don't think it's bad. I think if you add like a line or something, like one of those, like an aesthetic line or something, it'll also take away from the drag you get on your finger. So there's that as well. Begins to feel unstable at high speeds. I agree with that because if it was gonna be super powerful, that would cut that down. What you kind of did is you sort of stuck it in between. Power, like it's not powerful, it's not floaty. So if you make it powerful, like if you put more weight to the rim, take a little bit, like I said, maybe cut out a thumb groove for thumb grinds and push a little bit more weight up towards the rim, it'll really stabilize that during faster combos and stuff. Pretty satisfied with the aesthetics overall, but if you get more made, plan on doing colorways and doing more in terms of box art through stamps and hand painting. However, if there's things in particular, like I said, in my opinion, really aesthetically, I like cuts. I think, cuts. The way that looks in there. See that cut there? That cut there. I think it breaks the yo-yo up very nicely. I think it looks good with ano as well. I just like cuts in yo-yos, and I think, particularly with like organic H-shaped yo-yos, I think cuts really sort of break the yo-yo up. And like stuff like this, like if you get your finger, if you just have your finger in there, it's sort of taking away some surface area. I mean, it's not maybe worthwhile to take away surface area just on purpose, but it gives you that feeling of like, oh, there's a groove there, and I can feel it while I'm finger grinding, and that's cool as well. Pricing, better colorways and additional options, boxes, bearings, things like that. He's thinking 60, 75 bucks. I think that's a pretty okay place to shoot for. I always say to new yo-yo players, $50 is sort of the like baseline. So I would if you want to do fancier stuff, that's fine, but I would sort of try to shoot for a $50 base point, just to get it into as many people's hands as you want. Maybe do pre-orders as well, just to gauge some interest. I think that's always nice too. It's tough to start a new yo-yo company. It's tough to make a new yo-yo. The Aussie's a good name. I think the Aussie's fine. It's named after your dog, which is cool because your dog's an Australian Shepherd. Scout. Shout out to Scout. So, I mean, I don't think that that's a bad name, but it's up to you. We'll refer to this as the Aussie for now. But the video, I'm going to call it something about like reviewing a prototype, or let's talk about prototypes, reviewing the Aussie, or something to that effect. Really is just a good prototype. Like I said, if your prototype shows up and it's like this, you're 90% there. A few little tweaks, nothing extravagant. I think you do kind of want to try to play it safe, especially on the proto, in the middle to say, all right, do I want it floaty? Do I want it powerful? And if you hit it in the middle, sometimes some shapes will facilitate that, and you'll just be like, I like that the way it is. Some shapes, not so much. I think 8 shapes really, you kind of got to go one way or the other. You got to kind of give people what they're expecting by giving them a powerhouse, or go the opposite direction and give people what they're not expecting and make it be just this, and make it just be this super light, floaty, crazy yo-yo that just plays so light and is so floaty, but is still so fun. So that's sort of my thoughts there. Mind the gap. Consider an aesthetic cut. That may even help you with your thickness of finger grind issue. An aesthetic cut. Maybe instead of making that protrude out, make it kind of bump in. Maybe. And then, consider the weight distribution a little bit. Those are my thoughts on this Aussie prototype yo-yo. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Let me know what you think. Is this how you would approach a prototype yo-yo? Those are just my thoughts. I've touched a zillion yo-yos, so to me it's like, oh, this should go this way, or this. I've got sort of baseline opinions on things of how I feel something should play. So anyway, guys, that'll do it for me. Thanks for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Cheers to you. I'll see you next time.